Hello everyone, how is it going? Basically we had this Laracon live event in Lahore on 2nd of March, and I had this talk about building GraphQL APIs in Laravel, and it was just 30 minutes allocated to each speaker, and most of the talks were really kind of like there was very less live coding, and there was like most of the time it was just about concepts and everything, including my talk really. So my motivation for this particular video that I'm about to do now was to go over everything in more detail, because honestly I saw an overwhelming response in the community, and people wanted to know more about building GraphQL APIs in Laravel, and how things are done overall, and how this would be more advantageous in certain aspects in comparison to REST. So I wanted to kind of do this video and do everything from scratch, and share with you how I got to the first point, and then build the same example once more, and possibly if the response is still good and everybody likes the first few videos, I can probably go on to add more videos that can give you more insight into how to do advanced stuff with GraphQL, how to go beyond CRUD per se with GraphQL in Laravel. So what I'll do is I'll be using the same presentation, but then from there on I'll be trying to build everything from the beginning. This is extempore. There's literally no preparation that I've done for this, so I'm just shooting this. If everything goes well, let's hope so, we will be seeing each other live. I'll just start with the video, and we'll see how things go. So the first step that you need to do, let me just go through the presentation first, and so that we can so now instead of the talk that it's going to be a series in which we'll try to cover most of the stuff one by one, and we'll see how things are done, and we'll try to build everything from scratch. So building GraphQL APIs with Laravel. My name is Sardar Nawab Khan, and I'm basically quite active on Twitter. I think a few of you approached me on Twitter. Most of you approached me on LinkedIn, and where I'm most active is this channel, which is Easy Full Stack. So I'm trying to find more and more time to do more videos and share more of what I know with the community. And so Easy Full Stack is the place to go if you want to connect with me, if you want to stay updated with whatever I'm producing, whatever I am presenting, whatever I'm doing these days. This is the place to go to. And after the event, I'm starting with a new resolve to kind of do more and more videos here. So yeah, please do subscribe to my channel Easy Full Stack. Look for it, you'll see my picture there, and just subscribe, and you'll keep getting videos like this. Okay, so anything that I do in my videos, I normally tend to put it up in a repo and just upload it. So on my GitHub profile, which is on my GitHub account, which is Sardar1592, so you can look me up on GitHub using that as well. So let me just give you a quick glimpse of my GitHub, just to give you an idea of things. that's my GitHub, and we'll go to the profile. Okay, and as you can see, I'm an active developer with 1,296 commits in last year. Okay, and then there is so this is all the stuff that I'm an expert in, and these are my achievements. So anyways, you'll be seeing everything that I present here, everything that I code during this series. I'm going to upload them in a video of their own on my GitHub. So why GraphQL when we can rest? So you have every right to act like this angry wife. To say, okay, we can do REST APIs with our eyes closed. Why should we go with GraphQL? We can literally rest and write REST APIs. I like the tune to it. So you can literally not do anything. I mean, it's fairly quick. I mean, I have this other video. I'll try to put a link here. I have this other video on building building REST APIs in Laravel the usual way, and that's basically part of the Laravel Origin series. But still, you'll see that it's a piece of cake. I mean, you can easily put together a REST API without much effort. So Laravel really makes it a breeze building REST APIs as well. But why we should opt for GraphQL is it gives you a lot of fine-grained control. It has no underfetching. It has no overfetching. There's a single endpoint to work with at all times on the front end. There's auto documentation. So you have a beautiful schema to play with. Just looking at the schema file gives you everything, and then there's a strong typing system. There's real-time data with subscriptions. There's no versioning issues, so you always have the same endpoint to work with, and you can change the APIs behind the scenes, but the facing endpoint will remain the same. There's client-driven queries, so you'll actually be writing queries from once the endpoint and the schema is defined. You'll be writing client-driven queries that will be, fetching the data from the backend, and you can actually specify what you want on the front end and on the client side, and then the server will mimic the same, and it will send you a similar thing in response. There's less boilerplate, there's less code to write. So as you'll see, there's less and less code to write with there's a lot less code to write. With GraphQL, you don't actually have to write that much code to build an API with GraphQL, as you'll see. Okay, so the single endpoint has some obvious advantages. There's only one endpoint in GraphQL in comparison to possibly hundreds in REST. So for example, this lady is browsing here, and you'll see if it's, for example, if it's a product page, there'll be a lot of product endpoints that, I mean, you'll be fetching a single product. If it's a CRM, there are contacts, there is like your profile available at a REST endpoint, there is like emails. So anything that you are interacting with has a separate endpoint, and it fetches a lot of data. For example, in case of users, it'll fetch a lot of data. We'll cover it in the next slide, really. So, but with GraphQL, you'll be working with this one endpoint that you'll be specifying on the front end, and that's that. So, one other obvious advantage with this is that you can actually the backend team, you don't really need to call them to say, okay, like this particular endpoint is not working. It will always work once the schema is defined. And if there are any changes on the backend, you just need to, you need to actually worry less about the backend stuff when you're working on the front end with the GraphQL API because of the single endpoint. There's no underfetching or overfetching. So with REST, you have to fetch the whole resource to get one value. So there are these user models which we call, like some of the people use the term God model for user models. The reason is they are really big. They're really big. So for example, there might be 25 or 30 attributes on a user model. And if you just need to fetch your name, if there's a profile page where you need to fetch the name and photo and the Twitter whole record, and then on the front end you'll actually be choosing, okay, give me this, but then rest of all the data will always be fetched with REST. Everything will always be fetched with REST. If there are 25 attributes on the user model here, they'll all be fetched, and then you'll choose from them on the front end. Whereas with GraphQL, you can actually query and say, okay, give me this, and it gives you that, and that's that. So this has some obvious advantages, especially working with when working with mobile devices. So you can actually, uh, you know, uh, there's like, and especially places where, for example, in Africa, where there is less connectivity, where there is the connectivity is not very good, where we still, I mean, there are certain places on the planet where we are still working with 3G, although I doubt there are any anymore. But yeah, still, I mean, wherever there are connectivity issues, and and it is ideal for you to fetch the minimum possible data and fetch it and display it on the front end. GraphQL is ideal. So this can allow you to query a single value on the model, or even query multiple models at the same time if needed. So no underfetching as well. So for example, if you want to fetch the user and its associated resources, you can actually do that in REST, but again, you have to overfetch. So overall, it's a nice combination of no underfetching, no overfetching. It's precisely what you want that you can query on, and as you'll see later in the series, it's fairly easy to kind of get what you want on the front end. So there's a strong typing system with growing emphasis on types in the industry at large and Laravel specifically. GraphQL has a strong typing system in which all attributes to the schema need to be specified as a type at the time of definition. So if you are specifying an ID on a schema, you specify that it's of the type ID. If you specify name, then you have to tell that it's of type string. If you say email, now this is basically a custom scalar that has been imported. Otherwise, it's normally in most scammers you'll see this also specified as string, but I like to be more specific where I possibly can be. This helps with validation. This helps with a lot of stuff. So this helps you get the precise values that you are interested in. So that's basically same goes for date, I believe, and there are also others that you can pull in using a package. We'll do that later in the video as well. So so mostly everything is string, and that looks like it's quite loose. The only thing, this bang here, is required. So if anything is not nullable, anything is required, you actually put a bang in front, you put an exclamation mark in the end, and that's that. So that basically indicates that that is required. Now there are types supported out of the box, and then there are types that you can pull in using a package, as we'll see. Auto documentation. So schema helps the documentation besides being a single source of truth for the application. So this is basically the first thing that you'll see after installing the package that we're going to install, and then as soon as we publish the schema, you'll see the schema file, and by just looking at the schema, you'll understand what the application is all about. So this single file is so powerful that it actually replaces the need for multiple files that you create during REST, as you'll see. So graphical playground. So instead of putting together Postman collections, which is a pain in REST, I mean, I've worked for multiple projects where putting together putting together a Postman collection is basically who bells the cat question. So like okay, nobody wants to do that. But you don't have to do that with GraphQL. So there is auto documentation. So you can play around. So as soon as you write an API, as soon as you write a CRUD, as soon as you write a query, as soon as you write a mutation, it'll automatically be updated in GraphQL Playground, and you can actually play with it and see how you can build your query on the front end and what data is going to be returned, whether or not there are any issues. So we also call this GraphQL DevTools. So this is really useful in debugging and other stuff as well. Okay, then there is introspection queries. So GraphQL API actually provides introspection capabilities, allowing clients to query the schema and discover types and operations supported by the server. I wish I could copy an example here. I wish I had. Basically, you have these introspection queries that actually tell you more about the schema itself. So if you still have any doubts, or for example, you want more details about the schema, what type a particular attribute is, and a lot of other stuff, you can actually send an introspection query and you will get that. Okay, so there's real-time data with subscriptions. So there is queries. So all requests in GraphQL are post requests, but there is queries that get you data. There's mutations that mutate or change data, and then there is subscriptions. So subscriptions are basically GraphQL. I'll read it from the slide. GraphQL supports real-time data through subscriptions. So basically, what happens is that, I mean, for chat applications, for graphs, you'll actually be much better off with subscriptions, because this actually, you don't have to pull the API again and again to get the latest chat message or a real-time graph value, updated value, and think of Pusher, for example, and think of, I mean, if you've been working with REST. So this is basically used for that, and this is really handy. I'll try to, in the application that we are building, I'll try to add a chat as well so that you can see as to how things are. So there's plenty of there's no dearth of there's no shortage of misconceptions about GraphQL. So there is like, you must have heard it. There's a big learning curve. There's no file upload support. There's no Laravel support. It's too complex. There's no caching. There's lack of security. There's no authentication. There's high server costs. All of that, when you're working with Laravel, at least, is not true. So you have some very solid Laravel support. You'll be surprised how much you can do with a GraphQL API. There's literally no learning curve. Once you've written your first a schema file for a model, you are good to go. You don't actually have. I don't think you'll ever look back. Yeah, there are obvious advantages uh, to any technology, and there are certain drawbacks in others. When you've done a whole project, you'll see certain advantages that you had with REST, and you'll see certain disadvantages that you have with GraphQL, and vice versa. Once you work with both, but still, it's not like there's no Laravel support. It's like it's really Laravel. As you see, we have some really Laravel specific tools that are really amazing. There is some serious file upload support. I've actually done imports with GraphQL. I've done file uploads with GraphQL. It's not complex at all. Sorry for the typo. Um, and Yeah, caching is something that I believe now it's being taken care of. There's mostly you actually leverage client-side caches, and this is a topic that needs more detail. So we'll explain where we stand with caching in GraphQL, specifically in Laravel. And it says there's lack of security. No, there's none. You can actually use policies with um, you can actually use policies. There's a simple directive guard that you can use, and you can simply secure any particular resource and say, okay, this person with these permissions can do it, and others can't. There's no authentication. No, that's not true. So basically, passport, sanctum, everything is supported. So there are no issues there. High server costs, that's also BS, because with Laravel's large ecosystem, you can actually use Forge, and you can pair it with, for example, Linode or DigitalOcean or anything, and you can easily kind of deploy your API, and it works like a charm. I've already done that, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure a lot of other people have as well. Okay, so these are the misconceptions around GraphQL, and I have tried to signify them as bubbles, and I'll try to bust these bubbles. I couldn't bust them in the 30 minutes that I had at Laracon Live, but I'll try to bust them now, and one by one see. I've given you details about all of them in the previous slide, but yeah, still we'll see what we can do. Okay, there's growing adoption. I think I covered this in the talk as well. There's growing adoption in the industry for GraphQL. You'll actually see a lot of companies using GraphQL. So these are all big names. So either they have a primary offering. They say, okay, GraphQL is the way that we are going to going to offer our APIs. Or they say, okay, we have this REST API, but we also have this GraphQL API, and you can play with either of them. And speaking of that, it's not GraphQL is not an enemy of REST. It's not like they are at battle with each other. They cannot live peacefully together in a project. I've done projects in which I have actually used both. So if in the beginning you think that although I haven't seen that happening, but if you see that you can do something more easily in REST, or you can use a REST endpoint to support any GraphQL functionality, or you simply want something to be done through REST because you're more expert, you are more of an expert in REST, that can actually you can actually do that with both REST and GraphQL. So that shouldn't be a problem. So let's switch to our terminal and see how things go. Let's try to build a project. All right. So I have a folder on my system where I tend to keep all my code. So we'll just go there and we'll do Laravel new. Okay, let's see what we name it. All right, so let's probably say Laragraph. Sorry, Laragraph. Okay. All right. So as we speak, Laravel 10.3.3 is there. Laravel 11 is just around the corner. I believe the date is set for 12th of March. I don't think there's going to be much of a problem. This is certainly going to be valid with Laravel 11 as well. Okay, so we are installing Laravel. And what I've done is, what I have here on my system is I have Docker installed, and you'll see all these other projects here as well. But yeah, basically all these projects are now exited. They are stopped. So these are this is where the container is going to show. We are going to use Laravel Sail, which is my favorite for local development. So we'll see how it goes. 99%. Okay, let's try to bump it a bit. All of you can. I hope you guys can see this. Okay. Speaking of the terminal, this is item 2. This is my favorite. So we'll do cd laragraph. Okay, and we'll do code dot. So this will open it in code in VS Code, and I think we'll open the terminal here just to keep everything in one place. Okay, and since we are going to, just like always, we're going to post it to GitHub, so we'll just initiate Git here. And we'll say git add dot git commit Laravel install. Okay, so all right, and now we'll go to close this, and we'll go to Lighthouse PHP. Okay, we'll go to Lighthouse PHP and we'll see. So I really like the documentation. So it basically gives you everything in quite some detail, as you'll see in the other pages as well. So it's Laravel friendly. So the first thing that comes at you is it's Laravel friendly, and there's a heart next to it. That means that, I mean, Laravel is literally the new PHP. So almost everyone using PHP is using Laravel these days. So you'll see that Lighthouse PHP actually is Laravel friendly, and as you'll see in the duration of this course, everything is going to be so much Laravel specific. But before we do that, we obviously need to um, set up our local environment. So we'll just go with Laravel sail, and just like I said, and we'll install Laravel sail. Sorry, this is extempore, so I can go left, right, center with things, but let's just try to keep it sane. There we go. So we have installed Laravel Sail. Only next step that we need once we have. So the beauty with the beauty of Laravel Sail is that all you need is this Laravel this composer command, and then you need Docker. You need this composer command, and then you need Laravel Sail install. And we'll go with MySQL. You can also go with PDSQL. You can go with MariaDB as well. We'll probably go with we'll probably do Redis, and we'll do Mailpit. I think that should suffice. So now it's pulling these images, and again, it's going to take some time. So we'll just go and we'll try to, kind of have a look at the documentation for now. Have a look at the Lighthouse documentation for now. So, okay. So as you can see, you can install it via Composer. That's the first command. And then there's the default schema. So this is basically the schema file. As soon as you run this command, you'll see a GraphQL folder, and you'll see a schema file there that it also supports Lumen. So I believe Lumen is something that's it is very rarely used now, but there are still people out there who are using Lumen, so you can very well use Lumen because Lumen is basically the lighter version of Laravel, and you normally use it for a lot of people use it for APIs. So you can actually use this in GraphQL in the PHP Lighthouse package in Lumen as well. There is this ID support which helps with the autofills and everything, and then there is like the GraphQL that I mentioned. So we'll see where we are with the installation. I think this is going to take quite a bit. MySQL and Redis is already pulled, and I think this is pulling. Okay, Mailpit is also pulled. So this is actually building stuff. All right. So as you'll see, the documentation is really extensive. So this is installation. Then there is configuration. So Lighthouse comes with sensible configuration defaults and works right out of the box. Should you feel the need to change the configuration, okay, so you can publish the configuration, and just like anything else, you'll see it in the config Lighthouse PHP. We'll actually do that. We'll actually do that because that actually sometimes helps with certain things. Then you have just like anything else, you have the course definition. So what we'll do is we'll take this line out, and we'll add the path because we're going to deal with slash GraphQL. So instead of slash API, so we're going to keep the REST one, but we're going to add the GraphQL endpoint, and we're going to still keep the Sanctum CSRF cookie one as well, because we can use, just like I said, Sanctum with. And later in the series, I'll try to demonstrate that how you can use Sanctum with this. Okay, so our installation is still going on. So if you go to basics, this is the schema. All right, so it gives you how you can write the schema. Then it actually, so it's really extensive. The root types. So this will actually give you an idea of the types, the queries, mutations, subscriptions, all of that. And okay, and then there is like the hello world of of PHP Lighthouse, and there are best practices. Then there's eloquent. So in eloquent relationships, you actually there are directives using which you can, I mean, you normally just like with the REST API, you actually specify on the model, you specify which relationship it is going to be, and as you can see, you can actually specify this like this as well, which is a very good practice. And almost all of them are supported out of the box. I've also worked with polymorphic relationships. Yeah, by the way, so with photos. So that's also something that's possible. So soft deleting is supported. Uh, Restoring, permanently deleting soft deleted models, stuff like that. Nested mutations. Okay, and all right, so that gives you, for example, belongs to many. So if you want to query something with a relationship, this covers that. There is testing is also supported. So you can test with PHP unit, and there is static analysis with PHP stand, which is an amazing package for PHP standards. Um, okay, these are the subscriptions. Then there is federation, which is kind of beyond the scope of this series, but yeah, you can look into this. Um, then there are different. Then it actually also specifies what's deprecated and stuff like that. So error handling, all of that is there. So everything that you do in REST, everything that is Laravel, um, everything that's Laravel like is supported. Um, Almost like literally by writing a few lines of code, you can do that. So okay, so coming to authentication, you'll see you can use the standard Laravel mechanism to authenticate users for your GraphQL API. There is this there's like there's a complete guide how as to how you can use. So we will actually also be doing the Laravel sanctum part, so we'll come to this later. And then there is this guard that I mentioned. So you can actually use different policies and stuff with the guard directive, and I will go through almost all of this in detail. And then there is caching, just like I said. How you So another misconception about GraphQL is that it has this n+1 problem. So we'll also be discussing that. So how to overcome that. And that's it. So basically, all I want to say is, if there is a directive, for example, there's very extensive search as well. So for example, if you want to search the guard, um, I think actually it will probably might work with, okay, so you'll see that it gives you the guard directive. All right, these are all the directives, by the way. So you can see the API reference. You can see all the directives and what they do. So there's enums, there's all these kind of relationships. There is like there's rules, there's scalars. There's so much here that can actually give you, literally everything that you can do and that you do in Laravel. It literally supports everything. Uh, uh, with a very easy to use syntax. So coming back, let's see, it's still building. So I'll pause the video for a bit and we'll come back and we'll see. Once we are done with this, I'll come back and we'll resume from here. Actually, I think it's best that it's going to take some time and we need a lot more detail on this. So I'll be covering more stuff in the next video that I'm going to pair right after this, that I'm going to, sorry, upload right after this. So